Hello guys, J here and I'm back, and I'm going to be going through the official patch 5.4 Deathknight changes as they have just been released. The patch 5.4 date will be the 10th of September. Now I say official, but these can of course be changed because the patch isn't actually out yet and the PTR is still up and being tested, but these are the changes that are on the website at the moment. Okay, so first with the general changes, Deathgate now returns the Deathknight to a location near the original departure point when the spell is cast while in even hold. So basically you cast it to go to even hold, and then while you're in even hold, once you've done with whatever you're doing, respecking, reforging, you can cast it again or return you to where you originally cast it from, which is pretty good. Icebound Fortitude no longer costs runic power. This is really good, which could make the glyph more viable since it reduces its cooldown by half, I think, and so it's a lot more immunity to stuns, very good for PvP, and of course blood in PvE didn't need it anyway, so there's no changes there. Necrotic Strike now deals 100% weapon damage down from 150% weapon damage. That's a nerf to Unholy, especially in PvP there, since Necrotic Strike was pretty powerful before. That's quite a big change there. There's going to be a little less absorb, but it is compensated with other buffs, as you'll see soon. Rune of Razor Ice, first change to a rune in a long time. Well, this is a buff here. Rune of Razor Ice now causes 3% extra weapon damage as frost damage, up from 2% for each stack. It's been cut off. And each stack of frost vulnerability now causes the target to take an additional 3% damage from the Deathknight's frost attacks, up from 2%. So I believe it stacks up to 5 or 6 times. So this is trying to bring frost as you're wielding back, especially since they use Razor Ice as well as Fallen Crusader. So this is a buff here for the dual wielding spec of frost, which is based around their frost damage from Frost Strike and Howling Blast mostly. So this is a good buff for dual wielding. Hopefully it brings it back, because we haven't seen dual wielding since, say, Firelands patch really. And Unholy Presence now grants a flat 10% haste to all things, which means it's not only just attack speed and rune regeneration anymore, so that's pretty good. It's going to be affecting global cooldown and the dot tick time, so that's pretty good a buff for Unholy there. So yeah, we'll be seeing more DPS out of Unholy thanks to that, but there's going to be more buffs to come. Okay, and as for blood changes, many of these changes are to all tanks. There is a new ability called Riposta. This is trying to get all the tanks back onto dodge and parry instead of mastery and even haste for paladins. It's a new passive ability learned by Blood Deathknights level 76. When the Deathknight dodges or parries any attack, they gain 75% of their parry and dodge as additional bonus to critical strike for 20 seconds. So if you dodge an attack, you'll still get the bonus from the parry as well. And that's basically to make DK all tanks go back to parry and dodge, hopefully, and that'll increase DPS as well a bit from parry and dodge. Dancing Rune Weapon no longer costs runic power. This is pretty good because it's more viable to use it off cooldown as a DPS cooldown as well now, but obviously won't be using it and as a tanking cooldown as well. But now it no longer costs runic power, then we can have more rune strikes, obviously, for more damage. Sanguine Fortitude no longer reduces the cost of Icebound Fortitude, and if you're watching earlier, you'll know that Icebound Fortitude doesn't have a cost anymore, so that's not a nerf as you might think. Scent of Blood now also has a chance to activate when the Deathknight dodges or parries a melee attack. Now, that's trying to get people to do dodge and parry again, but Scent of Blood is up about 60 to 80% of your fight usually anyway. It procs very easily from your attacks, so I don't know. It's not much of a change in my opinion, but that's all there is for Blood. And now to Frost. As we can see, Frost has been rather untouched, which I find weird because it was the worst DPS spec in the game, dual wield and two-hand. So I thought Frost would get more buffs than Unholy, but not as we can see. But Howling Blast now deals 30% more damage. Now, if you remember earlier on the video, there were buffs to Razor Ice Rune, which means it'll be doing even more damage than the 30% buff. So they're trying to bring dual wield back for sure here. And Might the Frozen Waste now increases all melee attack damage by 30% up from 20%. This is a big buff here because melee is an important part of the Frost rotation in two-hand and dual wield. So there will be DPS increases with Frost, but as we'll see in a minute, not as big as Unholy will be. Sticking to Frost, actually, there were two other buffs to Obliterate and Frost Strike, small weapon damage buffs. These have now been reversed. Okay, so very nice changes to Unholy here. Master of Ghouls now reduces the cooldown of Raised Dead by 60 seconds, so it'll just be a minute cooldown instead of 2 minutes on your Raised Dead, which is going to help in both PvE and PvP. Ghouls Leap and Gnaw abilities are no longer on a global cooldown, no longer cost energy, which is very good for PvP because you had to have all sorts of macros to make sure you get the Gnaw off, like cancelling Claw and such, so you didn't spend any energy at that point, and yeah, there was a lot of nasty macros for those two abilities. It's going to be a lot easier to use Leap and Gnaw. Leap when your Ghoul's in Dark Transformation for the interrupt, of course. And the big change, Unholy Might now increases Deathknight's strength by 25% up from 10%, so that's an extra 15% strength there for the Unholy Deathknight, and I think it's the last like 4 patches. This has been changed. It went up to 25%, down to 20%, and back down to 10%. Now it's going back up to 25%, which is really good, and that's going to be a huge increase there. An extra 15% strength is going to be big. So Unholy Death Knights are definitely getting buffed quite a bit. Okay, and on to changes to talent. Anti-Magic Zone has been redesigned completely. Many Death Knights are asking for this. I didn't really mind much about Anti-Magic Zone. I quite like the ability and what it did. But the talent now reduces magic damage taken in the area of effect by 40% for 3 seconds. There is no longer a cap on the total damage absorbed, which is good, and the ability no longer scales with strength, which is kind of bad. So it's just going to be a flat magic damage reduction by 40% for 3 seconds. So it's going to be a small raid cooldown really on fights, say Margera on his rampage. It's going to be very useful, and other fights as well in Throne of Thunder, and of course the new raid. There's going to be some fights that as well. And the second change, Death Siphon has its damage increased by 10%. I don't think this is going to be very good. It's good for leveling up Death Siphon. You can solo dungeons with it, in fact, but it's not a very good ability. I don't think it'll be used, even though its damage has been increased by 10%. And change to Plague Leech is a good change here. Plague Leech now tries to convert 2 fully depleted runes up from 1 into a Death rune based on specialization. So with Frost, you'll be getting 1 Frost rune and 1 Holy rune up to a Death rune. And so this is Frost already used Plague Leech. So this is a big change for Frost here. So they can get 2 free Death runes instead of 1. So that's quite a big buff for Frost. And Holy will also be using this ability as well, and remember it's 2 necrotic strikes as well, so this is going to be pretty good and holy for in arenas as well. And as for blood, I think they're going to stick with Roiling Blood, to be honest, to reapply pestilence on the targets every time, but they could use it, I suppose. We're not quite done yet. There's still a lot of new glyphs and a lot of changes to old glyphs that we're going to talk about here. The text is really small because there's so much, so you might not be able to read it, so I'm sorry about that. But the new major glyphs, Glyph of Festering Blood, makes blood boil, treat all targets as if they have been infected with blood plague or frost fever. Now, this isn't, I'm not sure what this glyph actually does. I haven't been in the PTR, but I'm guessing because blood boil does extra damage if there's diseases on the target, it's just that. But I was kind of thinking, if you had Roiling Blood, would it actually spread blood, plague, and frost fever without even needing to apply it? But I'm not too sure about that. But it's definitely going to increase the damage. But you're going to have your diseases on AoE anyway, so that's not such a good glyph unless it does actually spread. And here's a good one here, Glyph of Regenerative Magic. If anti-magic expires after its full duration, which means you haven't taken enough magic damage for it to actually break, cooldown for the ability has been reduced based on the amount of the damage absorbed. So the more damage you absorb, the more the cooldown's reduced, but if it breaks, obviously, then it won't be reduced. Another one, Glyph of Swift Death. Haste effect granted by Soul Reaper now also increases Death Knight's movement speed for the duration, so if the target dies, then you're going to get some movement speed. That's quite good for PvP, actually, to help you get onto the next target quickly. And the Glyph of Loud Horn, Horn of Winter, now generates additional runic power, but the cooldown is increased, so I'm not sure. I guess that'll be pretty good. A nice bit of runic power. You don't need to use it every 30 seconds, I suppose. So yeah, that's quite a good glyph actually for PvE. And now changes to glyphs. Glyph of Enduring Affection now reduces damage dealt by diseases by 15% down from 30%. Now this glyph, it makes your diseases undispellable but reduces their damage, so it's pointless, and they buffed it and it's still pointless. You don't want your damage to be reduced just for anti-dispel, you can just keep reapplying them. Glyph of Mind Freeze now reduces the cooldown of Mind Freeze by 1 second, raises its cost by 10 runic power, down from 2 seconds and 20 runic power. This is pointless again. It's just 1 second reduction. There's other glyphs that are twice as good as that, so I'd ignore that if I were you. Glyph of Outbreak now causes Outbreak to cost 30 runic power, down from 40. This makes Outbreak have no cooldown, but you obviously don't want to be spending runic power on Outbreak. You should be able to keep your diseases up anyway, so this again is pointless. Glyph of Pillar of Frost is an interesting one because this has been out since like the start of Cataclysm. It's been terrible since the start of Cataclysm. Now reduces movement speed by 70% instead of freezing the Death Knight in place. Now this is interesting because Glyph of Pillar of Frost makes this DK immune to everything, but it freezes him in place. But obviously it doesn't freeze him in place anymore. And say you were already slowed, you're not going to lose too much from using this Pillar of Frostcliff, and with Death's Advance you'd still be at 100% movement speed and you'd be un-CCable, so I think this is quite good actually for Frost in PvP at least, so it makes you un-CCable while you Pillar of Frost up, which by the way is a very long time, it's like 20 seconds I think Pillar of Frost. I haven't played Frost in ages, sorry. And once Death's Advance is up, you'll be moving. Well, if you've got Death's Advance as a passive talent, then you'll be moving at 30% slower than usual at the maximum, and 100% when you've got it proc. So that's going to be quite good, actually, come to think of it. And there's some pneumonic glyphs. Glyph of Long Winter. The Horn of Winter ability now lasts 1 hour. That's going. You don't really need that since you'll be using it in combat anyway. Glyph of the Skeleton. The Deathknight's Raised Dead now summons a skeleton instead of a ghoul, so you can get a ghoul, a geist, and a skeleton now. The skeleton will be pretty cool, I think. It'll have the same abilities, obviously. Anyway, yeah, that's all the changes there are. So thank you everyone for watching this video. I hope you're all looking forward to patch 5.4 as much as I am on the 10th of September. I'll be uploading guides and RBGs and raids then again, hopefully. Well, not hopefully, I will be doing that. So September the 10th is when my channel comes back to life. And anyway, thanks all for watching. I'll see you soon.